Good afternoon. Good afternoon. All right. Election hangover, quote unquote. What do we do now? What can I do to protect my assets? What is the election going to do to my wealth? How can I pass down what I worked so hard to gain for the benefit of my family? How can I pass down all the fruits of my labor to them, right? And what is this election going to do towards that? How is it going to impact that? Well, we are continuing this week our post-election planning, our post-election legal planning for your state, okay? And in today's video, we're going to discuss one large issue to be on the watch for and also a couple of strategies to protect your assets with this in mind. Okay. And if you have already talked to an estate planner, you may be aware of this. But there is one big key to watch out for in 2025. Okay. And that is the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. All right. This was enacted by former President Trump in 2017, and it was a huge tax overhaul. It raised the estate tax, which we know as the death tax in many locales, right? Um, and it essentially doubled it. And if you don't know what the estate tax is, it is the amount of tax that's taken off of a portion of wealth. Okay. So let's talk a little bit in numbers. For instance, in 2024, each individual had an exclusion of $13,610,000 from taxes. So that means up to that $13,610,000, you do not get the estate tax, okay? Over that, then the tax starts to become effective and it can be very significant and cut into all those millions of wealth after that, all right? And that's for an individual, it doubled for married couples. So it would be 27 million and some change, okay? That first 27 million or so, not taxed. Everything after that, taxable. All right. That's in essence what the estate tax is. That's federal estate tax, so that applies around the country. Then you want to check with your local state, your attorney in your local area, when it comes to any possible estate or inheritance taxes. Here in Michigan, we don't have one. Okay, there's not a state estate tax, there's not a state inheritance tax. That means whoever's getting the money, they're not taxed on that. All right. So it's always a big election year issue. It's always a fear-mongering term, if you will. Does it exist? Yes, but not for everybody. Okay. For some people, of course, and you don't want to be ignorant of it. And especially if you're building your wealth up into there, you always want to know what potential dangers await you, right, as you continue to ascend. So don't ignore it, but just know for now when it applies to you and when it doesn't. Okay. But when it comes to this Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, it's a huge deal because that raised bar of that $13 million in 2024, it is set to lower after 2025. Okay. So it's going to sunset. That means effective right now, um, as of this date, effective on January 1st, 2026, it will expire and it's going to go back to lower rates. Okay. So basically it'll cut in half. So instead of that $13 million floor, $6 million. All right. So then that $7 million you get taxed on, and that can take quite a lot out of it. All right. That's a very bare minimum explanation of what it is. Going into the new year, what I think I'll do is we're going to have maybe an advanced tax, estate tax type of master class available for you, okay? Because you got to know these things, but I don't want you to be unaware or ignorant of it now. So just that's the basics of it. And it's gonna be a big issue coming up in 2025. Not to be, again, fear-mongering, don't engage in anything like that, but for you to be aware so that you can appropriately put a plan into place. That's what we're here for, okay? The goal is to make you aware of these issues so that it can help you minimize any tax liabilities, any unwanted tax liabilities, any unnecessary tax liabilities, and help you to better and more effectively and fully preserve those assets for inheritance, okay, for your beneficiaries, for the people that you would like to pass your wealth along to, okay? So that one big key is going to be something to look out for. I want you to be aware of it now, again, like I said. Um, and now we're going to talk about a couple of strategies that you may want to consider so that you can help do exactly what we said, minimize taxes and preserve assets, okay? And again, I want to reiterate, minimize, not avoid or evade taxes, okay? That's the crime. We're not talking about that. Minimizing, because the tax code is very lengthy. There's a lot of stuff in there. And if you can take advantage of it according to the code, then so be it, right? But you don't want to break the code. You don't want to break the law. Okay. So we make sure that we're not only following the law, but we're also doing it to our benefit so that the people that we're looking out for the most, they can have more of what we want to leave behind to them. Okay. Instead of it going unnecessarily to taxes back to the government. All right. That's the whole point of it. So let's talk about a couple of vehicles that you want to have in place in order to help protect your assets. All right. We're only going to talk about a couple today. Usually I give you like 3 or 4 points, but these two, I think, especially one of them, get overlooked a lot. And there's still some confusion over, well, how can I use that? What can I do for it? Do I need it? All right. The first one we're going to talk about are trusts. Trusts, you may have heard the term before. It's a pretty well known estate planning tool, but a lot of people don't really know how effective it can be when it comes to preserving assets, okay, and wealth. Number one, it is a private entity. It's a private vehicle of wealth preservation. That means it generally bypasses probate court. Why do I say generally? Because if disputes come up, then the probate court does have the jurisdiction to hear any disputes when it comes to trust administration or anything like that. Okay, they do have jurisdiction, but it's not like passing away with just a will or passing away with nothing. And the courts have to hear it, and everything has to be distributed according to what the statutes are, and everything has to be on the record. That's not the case for a trust. Okay, a very properly well executed trust is going to handle all of that. So it's completely off the record. Okay. So again, the assets will remain out of probate court. Why is this important? Because again, preserving, okay? When it comes to probate court, there's a cost to get in there. Okay, and it may not seem like much at first, maybe about $150 to $200 altogether to get it started just to file the case, right, here in Michigan. But that's just a starting point, okay? And then again, that's just money coming out of the estate that is being taken from the beneficiaries, taken from the heirs. It's coming out of that inheritance. And you don't want to have to make them pay for that, right? The goal is to be able to leave them as much as possible. So a trust can do that. You will avoid all of those court fees, right? And it would just pass on to the beneficiary. So that's another benefit of it being private and of it avoiding probate court. And then obviously the whole purpose of it is to pass along what you like to your beneficiaries, and you can set that up. There are 3 key roles needed in a trust. And again, this is here in the state of Michigan. If you're elsewhere, you may want to check with an attorney in your area. You'll need a settlor or a grantor, which is the person who is setting up the trust. Trustees or the managers, they are the ones that are essentially going to make distributions and move things around in the trust. They're managing it. And then a beneficiary, okay? Think of it like a bank account. Let's say you have $1 million, and rather than just kind of leaving it wherever, you put it in a bank account. And in that bank account, you are the grantor. You're the one opening the account. For right now, maybe you are the trustee because you're the one managing the money there. But then in any bank account, you can always name a beneficiary. So let's say that's going to be your son and your daughter. If it's a trust, then they will be the beneficiaries, okay? Son and daughter. If you're no longer able, once you pass away, then the trust will have somewhere to go to the beneficiaries, okay? So think of it kind of like a bank account in that way. And it's a very good tool to use for that. Now, one of the key, here we go, when it comes to strategies, one of the key benefits of a trust is that there are many diverse types based on the purpose for what you're setting up the trust. Okay. So again, not to like evade taxes or anything, but trusts are a very good vehicle to preserve wealth so that taxes are not taken out of that wealth. All right. And there are many different types of trust to do it. And when I say types, I mean purposes. Okay, so let me back that up. Let's kind of break trust down into types and purposes. When it comes to types, there are 2: revocable, irrevocable. Revocable, you can change at any time. Irrevocable, you cannot. Irrevocable is very good for specific purposes, which we'll get into, okay? But you don't want to start there unless you have, again, a very specific purpose as to why you're making it irrevocable, because whatever you put in there, then you no longer own. Okay, the trust owns it and then the trust manages it. It can be for your benefit, that's fine. And there are strategies to do that. But you don't want to just say, oh, I'm going to do that. I'm going to start there because it doesn't come out of there. And you may um, unnecessarily end up doing something like putting your home there and now you don't even own your home anymore. Okay, so that's why when it comes to these types of arrangements, talk to a legal advisor, a financial advisor who can help you through it because there are very specific consequences. Okay, so you want to be very specific when it comes to what it is you're actually doing. So those are the types. Revocable, you can change anytime. And you can even revoke it, right? You can take it away. Irrevocable, you cannot. Now let's talk about purposes. This is where the trust can be really fun, actually, and really beneficial and really creative too. Planners, okay, attorneys, all right, CPAs, financial advisors. This is where it can be very creative because what is it that you're looking for the trust to do for you? All right. I was just presenting at a Medicare and Medicaid seminar a couple of weeks ago. And a trust is a very powerful tool to use when it comes to being able to draw on Medicaid benefits and Medicare benefits in older age. All right. But again, it's all about the purpose of it. If it's going to be that Medicaid asset protection trust, if that's the purpose, then this is how we're going to have to set it up. Okay. Um, if we're going to be given to charity, so that way our wealth can be passed on to charity, it will minimize our taxable wealth, but right, we're still giving it to somebody we want. Then maybe it's a charitable trust. Okay. If we are trying to preserve it from people that we love because they spend so much and we don't want it to just be wasted, is there some kind of spendthrift provision, right? There are so many different purposes in that way. And a trust is a very powerful vehicle to be able to accomplish that purpose. And again, overall, the main goal is to minimize the taxes, preserve the assets. Trusts are almost an ideal vehicle to do that. Okay, so that's the first one. And again, we'll talk more about trust as the weeks come along, because a lot of people overlook it, just maybe out of ignorance or fear, intimidation, they don't know about it yet, or oh my gosh, it's going to cost a lot. You got to offset the costs, okay? Because it's going to cost if you go to court and you don't have anything together as well. All right. Um, and the more you have, the more you're going to want to protect anyway. And that's when a trust can really, really be beneficial. The second strategy I want to get into when it comes to preserving assets is one that is one of my favorites. I love talking about it. It's just so important. I think everybody should have one. Obviously, there are going to be pros and cons, risks and rewards to it all, but when executed to the highest standards, it can work wonders. And for me, powers of attorney. Okay, specifically financial powers of attorney. When it comes to powers of attorney, there are two types. There's one that's called financial or durable, you might hear. So financial power of attorney, durable power of attorney, same thing. The other type you might hear is called healthcare power of attorney or patient advocate designation. Those are the same, okay? When it comes to financial power of attorney, it's essentially you giving your authority to an individual known as your agent to be able to act for you when it comes to kind of routine business, when it comes to your finances, when it comes to banking power, real estate, selling, your business operations, things of that nature, anything in that financial kind of realm. All right. And you can also include provisions in there for them to be able to receive or apply for government benefits and things like that on your behalf. All right. That's the financial one. When it comes to healthcare, it's all about naming someone to be able to help you when it comes to your doctor's appointments, when it comes to what kind of treatment you want, when it comes to what kind of life-saving or life-ending procedures you'd like to do. These kinds of things you can lay out in your healthcare power of attorney or patient advocate designation. Okay, again, interchangeable terms there. But I'm going to kind of really lean on and rely on the financial side because that's where a lot of the, all the property is, all the money, the real estate and everything like that is over there. And why they're so important is because it protects against your own inability to do these things for yourself. And sometimes you never know when that can be. All right. And these are very powerful tools that, again, avoid probate court because another thing you don't want is a fight on the court public record about who's going to be in charge of your banking information, who's going to be in charge of your social security checks, right? All this stuff is out there on the record. And you don't want to leave it to the hands of the court to appoint someone to do it for you because they can and they will. All right. Who do you want? Again, it's all about taking your own power, right? Your power of attorney to do that for you. Before I go any further, power of attorney, they're not your actual attorney. Okay. So they cannot represent you in court. That's not what that is. All right. But they're known as your agent and they can have these powers as if they were you. All right. So just a little misnomer there. All right. In the name. But if you have these in place, you don't have to go to court to try to get somebody to be named your conservator, which is someone who would essentially take over your finances, or your guardian, someone who would essentially take care of your health care and your needs. All right. Another reason why they're so powerful, again, you can delegate your own authority to them. All right. Uh, if you're unable to do it, they can do it for you. And when it comes to the financial or durable, the durability is that power of attorney will outlast any incapacity that you may encounter, any incapacity that you may endure. So whether that is some kind of mental deficiency that you may come across, whether it's some kind of physical inability that you may come across, a properly and effectively executed power of attorney will allow that individual to continue acting for you on your behalf. So that is why it is essential that number one, you have the mental capacity to do it, right? You're of sound mind and everything. You're over 18. There are specific rules about that, but also that it is executed effectively, not just downloaded online and signed. All right. I've been doing a lot more of those lately. Some of the rules have changed here in Michigan where we're adopting a uniform power. We've adopted a uniform power of attorney, and it's essentially a form that will be accepted in more places. Okay. Because banks and financial institutions were kind of routinely rejecting them. It's a lot of power that you give to another individual, but it is so beneficial because it's something that you do not have to go to court for later. All right. And it helps you now in your own lifetime. And you can name that individual and they can act for you. So if, God forbid you were ever in an accident, you couldn't get to your accounts, or, you're running your business and oh my gosh, something terrible and unfortunate happens to you. If you have that properly executed power of attorney, there is so much that they can do to help you while you're unable, right? And so that's how that comes into play with, all of this that we've been talking about today, with the money, protecting the property, because you're not just you all the time. We're so thankful for the ability to act in the way that we are, but we just never know. And it's not to plan for that to happen, but it's just preparing, okay, if it ever happens. All right. Very, very, very powerful strategies. Very, very, very useful, very beneficial. I mean, it can't be beat in a lot of ways, but you want to make sure that you're executing effectively and that you're executing with integrity. Okay. Because again, you want to make sure that the person you're going to name to do all these things, you can trust them to do it and not look out for their own interests. They're legally obligated to only look out for you, right? Not to act in their own interests. Okay. But again, this is humanity. We're imperfect. So that can happen, but there are consequences. There are legal barriers for that. All right. And again, this is not to make you afraid of trying to use this. Just know that that is also out there. Okay. But it should not negate the power that it gives to you to essentially act beyond your own incapacity, right? Because if I can't do it, I've already named somebody to do it for me, and I know they'll do it, right? I believe that they'll do it. I have faith that they'll do it. And these are the wishes that I want them to do. You can even do that, okay? So when it comes to that, when it comes to just, again, the whole goal is to preserve and protect. And preserving is a part of our own health, okay? Okay, so when you can't and you're unable to, you preserve that power in someone else. And that's what makes it so powerful. All right, so that is our video for today when it comes to legal strategies for protecting your assets after the election. And coming into the Thanksgiving season, the holidays, the new year, we're going to be talking a lot more about this stuff because it's just the perfect time to reflect. We're coming into a new season. a new, obviously, political administration, um, and a new way of thinking and being. This is a good time to really do it, not to be afraid of it, but to say, you know what? I don't have to keep going the same route I've been taking. Yeah, it's been okay, but I can do better, right? Or maybe it's been awful and I got to get out of this. I got to get into something better. Stick around, okay? We will help you along the way when it comes to organizing your business and your legal affairs in this manner. All right. So we hope this was helpful to you. If it was, please do like, share, subscribe, let us know, give us some feedback. All right. Otherwise, we will see you again next week. All right. Take care.